like dynamite. I never meant to make you cry.
Hello and welcome to your weekly edition of This is Ibrox. It's your Rangers podcast. My name's Scott Paterson. You're very welcome. Joining me this week on a week where we don't review anything as such, I'm really pleased to welcome Tommy McIntyre to the pod. Hi Tommy, how are you?
I am very, very well, thank you. Just getting a warning out nice and early that we need to be really careful not to say anything inappropriate or laugh at anybody. We don't want to hurt elite athletes' feelings because there's some really sensitive players out there.
Absolutely. That's a great shout. A great shout. So let's be careful what we do tonight. No offensive nature. Robbie, you're back again, my friend. How are you doing? Very welcome.
Brilliant, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Yes, not bad at all. Not bad at all. So we should say before we start, this Ibrox is brought to you by Triple H Mortgages, the one-stop shop for all your mortgage and mortgage insurance needs. Call them as early as you can on 01453 887 179, or you can email them at hello@hhhmortgages.com. You can get them by the website, of course, which is all the W's. hhhmortgages.com. They're also there on the same Facebook address as well.
I think I got them there.
If you are looking to speak to them, I suggest you mention my name or Robbie's or Willie's. Do not mention Tommy's, because it'll be scored right off the list, I would say, from tonight. And the lovely people in there, and Craig will look after you very well indeed. So, gentlemen, as I said at the start, no football for the Rangers over the weekend. So we don't really have a great deal to speak about from a preview or even a review perspective. So we are going to use this session for each of us to discover three things. We're going to each share our moments of the season where we felt that 55 was really coming. I'm keen to know also what your goal of the season is up until now. Something remarkable may happen against Livingston or Aberdeen, of course, during the week. And lastly, and I think more importantly, we've done this partly over the last couple of weeks, I'm really keen to know your players of the season. So, Thomas, you can go first because I know you've prepped up well. Your moment of the season when you thought 55 was a thing.
Okay. And listeners, watchers, don't adjust your sets. That was extreme sarcasm from Scott. Because I'm on a dare not to have done any research for this particular one. I think, and there's so many great moments, and I'm sure we'll talk about them all in due course. But you've asked me specifically when 55 appeared on the horizon, tangibly reach out and touch it and all that kind of stuff. Touch but don't taste. If anybody's ever seen Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino.
Pad.
Okay. I think it was I'm trying to remember the date of the game, actually. I think it was November time, beginning of November, second or the 1st of November, something like that. We were away to Kilmarnock down at Rugby Park. I think Tav scored a penalty, 20th minute, 22nd, 19th minute, somewhere in that spread, right? And so it would have been the Sunday, the 1st of November, actually. And we played pretty ropey on a pitch and at a venue that had been historically, for us, pretty difficult, and particularly in the Gerrard era. You know, we'd cycled off the back of that, the Joe Worrell evening and stuff like that, when Jordan Jones had scored. So anyway, we played particularly poorly, and in the final 15 minutes, it all became a little bit backs to the wall. And if I remember correctly, it was a bit of a rainstorm. Yeah. Towards the end of that, I remember Eamon Brophy having a free kick about 19, 20 yards out, right near the death, and they got nothing, and we got the 3 points. And I thought, oh, that's a different mentality. Not only have you come away with the tangibles, the 3 points, gimme, I'm away up the road, but maybe not sounding like a gremlin, it has to be said. But hey, I've got the look, I might as well go for the voice. But that was the that was the moment where I thought there might just be a wee bit more grit in here, as opposed to just the peril of good football. There might be a wee grit inside this oyster as well, and you get the two of those things together, you end up with getting a wee bit of a diver's choice when it comes to the silverware.
And I think you remember, that night, I remember Brophy getting the free kick, and you think, he's going to score here. He is going to score here. There's no danger. This isn't going into the net.
That's a big shout, by the way.
Yeah.
Was not expecting that.
That's early in the season as well, isn't it? I mean, it was early in the season for us to think at that point in November that, wow,
I'm not sure. I tell you what though, that is the thing that I remember most for that game, him getting that free kick. I can't. So was it 1-0? I can't even remember the score.
Finished 1-0. We'd have with a penalty in I think it was the 19th, 21st minute or something like that. And then it was all about nip and tuck and quite a tight game. And as Scott's absolutely correctly and really well articulated there, you saw Brophy stepping up. Rain was lashing down. Pretty dodgy call, if I remember correctly, for the free kick, right? A wee bit innocuous, and you thought, right, the stars are aligning again. It's going to come off somebody's backside, and it's going to roll into the bottom corner, and we're going to drop 2 points here at this point in time, beginning November, coming into that November, December period. Just, we start to drop points already, and I think we'd beaten, obviously, Celtic in October, and I think that was around the Stamford Age, Livingston game, Lech Poznan and all that. And then we had that, and afterwards I think it might have been Benfica, actually. I may be wrong with that, right? But it was just a wee story that we'd seen before. Difficult venue against a team that we, on paper, should dominate. You can't even make the grass joke because down there I don't know what they're playing on, right? I don't know, Hubba Bubba.
It's a mugger pitch.
Exactly, you know what I mean? I think if you lift it up, there's just red ash underneath it, right? It's one of those ones. And it just encapsulated and crystallised in my mind that moment with the free kick, everything there, and you thought, we've seen this before.
Yep.
And I think the wall stood up and it cannoned off the wall. And then it cleared, and you thought, whoa.
Didn't expect that.
I think the fans are feeling that. I think if the fans are feeling that, I think the players might have been feeling that as well, to some extent. And that's when you start to get on that, right, here we go, we can maybe just get the small margins, and it's the small margins that make the big aggregates.
Robbie, same question to you.
So mine's is probably a relatively popular one, but I think I don't know if it was the 2nd of January, but the new year, Old Firm at Ibrox for me was after that final whistle went, I was like, we've won the league. I was just supremely confident after that, because I think we'd went double figures, points ahead. I think they might have still had a game or two in hand, the famous 2 games in hand, but I think the lead didn't stretch much by that point. And I think the manner in which we won it as well, because in that, leading into the game, I think the sort of unanimous feeling was, even if we draw, we're kind of pleased with that, like we're still left in a good position.
Yeah.
We'd obviously done well in the couple of previous Old Firms, but the way they started that game, I think if everyone was being honest, in the first half, you're like, what is going on here? Like, they've been a better side, we've been poor, and obviously we've had a couple of poor performances and a particular poor result against St Mirren, kind of leading into that game, around about that month. And obviously we've got this sort of previous history of it's not doing so well post-New Year. So then, in fact, in the first half, they've came out kind of all guns blazing, the better side. We're looking very ropey with a couple of injuries at that point. I think, see if they come to Ibrox, win. At that point, I think they could win by a couple of goals here. If they left that day with a 2-0 victory, with their tails up, and we're kind of getting that Dubai again, because it's not just the fact that they would have gained 3 points in us. I think all the sort of hysteria that surrounded that result and that performance, if the second half continued the same way as the first, I think it would have been a big challenge to recover from that, which, looking back on it now, sounds ridiculous because how far ahead we now are. You think, well, it was only the difference of 6 points, because obviously they'd have gained 3, we'd have lost 3. But I think that it would have been potentially damaging if it continued that way. So then obviously going to the second half are a wee bit more solid, they get a man sent off. We still don't play particularly great after it, and then even the way they concede an own goal from a set piece, hits off somebody's back, we grind out the result, they get a man, and there, after that game, I think you just seen the confidence taken out of them, because they were going into that game a good bit of form, I think, as well. They were getting a lot of good results, they were playing a lot better. They'd obviously won a cup final previously, albeit on penalties. They'd still won a cup final, so you can see their tails were up from that as well. So I think as soon as that game was finished, I just think it done wonders for us, but it absolutely killed them as well. And obviously, I think the results for both sides went on to prove that to be the case, because we just went one way and they went the other, basically. So pretty boring one for me, because it's an obvious one. Tommy's a bit more left field, but I think from that moment I felt it was in the bag.
I think the thing for me is that the one thing that when I look back at the Old Firm games from this season, that was the game where they really only, out of all the games this season, that was the game where they troubled us, and they only troubled us for 30 minutes. And of that 30 minutes, as far as I'm concerned, they didn't do a whole lot to shout about. Our other games against Celtic this season have been largely quite comfortable. I feel I can say that quite confidently. It's easier now they're all out the road, of course it is. But that game, Tommy, I don't know if you agree, that game at Celtic, well, they did look better than us for a good portion of the game, but do you know what I mean? The devil's in the detail, and we took the 3 points that day.
Listen, absolutely, and it's hard to argue with that particular choice of game. And don't for a second think it didn't appear in my mind as well. I just wanted to be a bit different. Very unlike me to be a contrarian. Obviously, just for the sheer hell of it. But
at least you're honest, mate.
Well, aye. Can tell I'm a Christopher Hitchens fan, but late Christopher Hitchens. But the point of the matter is, I still do believe everything I've seen about that Kilmarnock game. It did stick in my mind, and it was, I thought, a turning point. But you're absolutely right in everything. I agree with everything you guys are saying in terms of that. I think I'm on record of saying the exact same things, to be honest with you, about that New Year Old Firm game. And I think Beaton got sent off 60th minute.
Yeah, something like that. I was running about the hour, yeah.
And if I recall correctly, and obviously it's my man sent off, but Rangers came out with, obviously slightly more possession. I think Celtic only had like 3 or 4 chances on target.
Aye.
And that's what exactly. I think I said last week that people mythologise that game a little bit, and I do it myself. And I'm not that's not a criticism either, you guys there. But Celtic played as well as they could, and to your point, they had a half an hour spell where they created some chances.
Yeah.
But there's 2 parts to that. One, we weren't used to seeing a team create a hell of a lot of chances against us, and so you immediately inflate it. And 2, didn't take any of those chances, and then got a man sent off. So when I say mythologise, people think, particularly Celtic fans, I believe, that was the moment that they should have won. Well, it wasn't quite that type of game. Do I agree with you that for half an hour they were absolutely on top and were causing us problems that we weren't naturally answering? 100%, totally with you. But it wasn't exactly backs to the wall stuff, and good teams don't concede. And this is a story of Celtic's season there against us, to be honest with you. They create chances. They've had moments where they've maybe been on top, even in those comfortable games you referenced, but they have not been able to take their chances through a combination of top defending, top goalkeeping, really poor players on their part. I've said no better way to say it than that. Everything from McGregor's save against Griffiths to Edouard's miss the other week there. You could take a litany of all that type of stuff. Clear-cut chances, taking them, that's the story of winning games. So sorry, just to bookend that, I do completely agree with you in terms of the morale sapping of that. Yeah. So for everything I was saying there about grinding it out against Kilmarnock and coming up back up the road, I'd imagine the team bus for Rangers would have been bouncing in that. They've done us in the past. That was nip and tuck, but we've come out on top, right? Celtic must have been trudging back onto that bus going, we've just chucked pretty much, we've emptied our tanks, to use a Steven Gerrard phrase. We've emptied the tank, and they're sitting in there with the 3 points dancing about, and they've not even had to score the goal. We've done that for them. You know what I mean? And to make it worse, Alfredo Morelos turns the game with the sending off, and that must have really sapped the morale. How a manager like Neil Lennon then would attempt to get that team back up would have been a really would have been challenging for his man management style, and maybe that's some of where the internal wheels came off as well for them.
I think the good thing about it is that they of course celebrated that defeat with a trip to Dubai.
Aye.
Well, you've got to do something to get Rangers off the back page.
Absolutely right.
There you go.
Listen, shall I give you mine?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Please do.
So my moment of the season this season goes back to December 2020. and I felt that things were changing in our favour quite positively after the Motherwell game at Ibrox pre-Christmas. We conceded our second, I think, league goal of the season that day. Lang, I think it was, it scored for Motherwell right at the start of the game. And it was one of those sort of curved balls across from left to right, and the guy was at the back post and able to dink it in. And I felt we were a bit stuffy for the remainder of the game. And with 20 minutes to go, we're still 1-0 down, and we won the tie 3-1 thanks to Roof scoring a double and Cedric Etienne scoring as well. That was the moment for me where I felt that things were changing in our favour and the tide was beginning to turn a little bit. I think the thing that I often go back to in that game, when Steven Gerrard's Rangers lost to Hamilton in March 2020, which feels like ages ago now, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. That game reminds me of that sort of period of time where we wouldn't have came back from 1-0 down to Motherwell at home because just things weren't going in our favour. However, with 20 minutes to go, we kind of upped a few gears and got the 3 points.
I think as well the crucial one for that game is the game before it was the St Mirren Cup tie as well. Absolutely. So obviously that was midweek. Yep. 3 days later, you're like, this is a big game. And 2 minutes in, you got a goal down, and you think, like, wow, that it's surely after the season we've had so far, we're not going to start to turn the corner and turn the rank corner, basically. And
I think as well, Rob, it was a time when we were playing a lot of football at that point, and a lot of guys were doing a lot of good things. Roof at that point, for example, was playing really well. He was playing really, really well pre-Christmas. So it was a time when we were playing a lot of football, and when, as you say, when we got to the St Mirren tie, and everyone largely expected us to brush St Mirren away. I don't care what anyone says, we did. I did. I thought we would have went there and won quite convincingly, and it just never happened. And I think the Motherwell game that came after it was not an easy tie, certainly, but I think for us to go maybe 70 minutes, a goal down at home with 0 fans to sort of try and drive you on for even an equaliser, to come out sort of 3-1 winners, I think, Tommy, was quite a decent result, and it was certainly the moment of the season that turned things for me.
Listening, really, really, really interesting, really good choice, actually. And I swear I know this off the top of my head, by the way, because it's stuck in my mind and I've got a reasonably good memory for figures and stuff like that. I'm an absolute delight at parties, obviously. Right? But one, I think Itten came off the bench, scored a header pretty much immediately. Is that right? Yep. But I remember I do remember that. Well, I remember the game, obviously, but I do remember the stats because I think Rangers had something like 80% possession.
It was something ridiculous.
I was going to say, it's funny how you've said it's the most memorable moment because it's the least memorable game of football I've ever seen in my life. And it actually annoyed me after it, right? Because everybody talks about it was one of the examples. And see, to be fair, it's a fair point where I think that I personally don't think teams are as good in Scotland this year, but I think it's a fair argument that there's probably better managers. However, Motherwell getting complimented after that game for making the game difficult is embarrassing in my opinion. Because
agreed.
We went to Hamilton, sort of just off topic. We went to Hamilton like 3 or 4 months later. New Douglas drew 1-1 with a score in the last minute. They made it difficult for us by imposing their style on us. They played, I think, 3 or 5 at the back, however you want to put it. 2 wing backs were really high. They pressed us up the pitch. We put a lot of the game in our half. We created little chances. They created a few. They actually caused us bother by trying to play football.
Yeah.
Motherwell scored an early goal and literally played 10 guys.
5-5.
They did as well been sticking gloves on 2 of the centre halves. It was ridiculous. And then it was like after, fair play to Motherwell. They made it difficult. See if you were to watch that back, that's what I would expect a junior side to be like playing against a top flight team. I thought it was embarrassing, and I was actually surprised because it surprised me with Stephen Robinson. I actually thought he had them playing a bit better football, but it just obviously off the you. But it's funny how you say it's a most memorable moment because what a bad game. But on that game, wee question for you. Obviously, you mentioned fans. do you think we would have came back and won the game if there were fans, or do you think that could have actually worked against us?
It's an interesting question. That one.
I don't really like saying it because I don't want to take it away from players as if they couldn't handle it, but I do think it is a fair question. Would it have actually helped us that night there be no fans? Thomas, Mr. McIntyre.
I think it's a really legitimate question. Actually, I think it might have been more difficult. I think players might very well have tightened up because there would be undoubtedly there would have been tension from the stands.
Of course,
not necessarily criticism, but definitely tension and a willingness to try and do things. And you know what it's like, that forces you a wee bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a game of could you, would you, should you? But yeah, it might have played out differently. Then again, people rolling them on might have made them score earlier or whatever. It's a bit of a zero-sum game. That, although it's a really interesting question. What I would say though is, if I remember correctly, just to your point about Stephen Robinson, I think they were in the mire points-wise. They just found out, I think, that they were probably going to lose the appeal or the game that they were awarded because of COVID-19. They could have put them in the relegation places, and essentially that result did for his job.
Yeah.
Because he was just desperate to get out of Ibrox with 3 points, would have settled for the point.
Yeah.
And then it all just evaporated, and that pretty much did for his Motherwell career.
Yeah. So I think the glaring thing, and this is hugely satisfying for me, I must be honest, is that each of our moments of the season are so early on in the season. So there's nothing that we're looking at that was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I think it's fair to say that each of us believed that after the Old Firm game at the latest in January, we believed we were going to win the league. That's incredible for this season.
I know, it feels like so long ago that we won the league.
It does actually a bit.
It's trophy day in like 2 weeks' time still. Like what? Well, obviously a week time. It's incredible, and again, I think it just. I don't think that, given what the players have done in the league this season, I generally don't think you can give them enough credit, in my opinion, for how they've handled themselves. They deserve every ounce of praise they get, either from our own set of support, from within the club or media, or anything. They deserve every bit of praise comes our way from me.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so we've all done our moments of the season, all in a similar sort of time scale. I think it's fair to say. As I say, it's hugely satisfying that it was such a long time ago because we've won the league that early on. Second thing I want us all to discuss is our respective goals of the season. Lots of goals this season, lots of really, really good goals. Watched some earlier on to just refresh my memory. Barisic free kick at home in August against St Johnstone, cracker. There's a couple I don't want to mention because I think you'll probably take them up as we go on. So Robbie, I'll come to you first. Your goal of the season this season is?
My goal of the season this season is James Tavernier versus Galatasaray.
Oh, yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Was it August? I don't know. Should I check? Aye. And tell you what, you're totally right. You're saying, by the way, the amount of good goals we've scored. So I actually think Michael Beale put a video on his Instagram or Twitter or something. It was a 2-minute montage of the goals we've scored.
Loads of great goals.
By the way, that could have been best goals of the decade. Some of the goals were unbelievable. Even that, the game I'm talking about, Arfield's goal was superb that night as well. I think Gemma has the ball, whips into Hadji's feet, Morelos dummies it through his legs, Hadji takes a touch through the ball to Arfield, he scores a first time finish. But for me, I'm a big fan of team goals, and I think that one of the reasons I like that one so much is it must have been so satisfying for the team and the management, because that's clearly play that's been orchestrated and developed through 2-3 years and through the training ground and matches and stuff, and it just came into fruition in that move, and we got a goal from it. And the fact that it was fullback to fullback as well, it's just
incredible.
Yeah.
Because it's also worthy of noting that's obviously been a common theme this year, Barisic crossing it to Tavernier, or even the other way about. But they've maybe done it against like St Johnstone and stuff, whereas on this occasion we were doing it against Galatasaray, a top European side. So the move, if I remember, I actually think it was a goal kick. It's way to Goldson. Tavernier's very deep. plays it to Tavernier. He plays into the midfield. There's a sort of short 1-2. We switch the play over the other side. Kamara goes over to the other side again. I think Ryan Kent beats a man, gives it back to Kamara, out to Barisic. He step over, gets out his feet, crosses it in the box, 6 yards out. James Tavernier's there to tap it in. What a goal. So for me, there've been many, many good ones, but that's my personal goal this season.
It was a fantastic goal. It really was. It was one of these games one of these goals that you wish, wow, you would just have loved to have been in there and just follow that on the pitch all the way through. Fantastic stuff.
I mean, it's interesting because it's not even the best goal in that game. But listen, everybody gets to choose what they want, I suppose.
I have to say, goal was good that night as well.
Well, I was thinking Arfield's goal actually.
Arfield's goal was a cracker. You did say that, Rob. You did say that, my friend.
You know what I mean? Which I would think is the best goal in that game, to be brutally honest. I think it was 2 goals in 7 minutes, and it was 1st of October.
Is that right? Far? Oh, goodness me. It feels like ages ago.
European qualifier and it was so late.
I'm absolutely. I'm willing to. I might be wrong with the actual date there of 1st, but it was early doors in October.
Because it was that was a one. It was just a one leg straight shootout.
Straight shootout, aye. Because I think it wasn't too long after that we had the Celtic game. We beat them 2-0.
And I think did Tav miss a penalty first half? I'm sure Tav missed a penalty that night. Or am I talking absolute nonsense?
I don't remember that.
I think hang on. I think he did miss a penalty in Europe at Ibrox this season. I think he did.
Missed a penalty in the first half that night.
I think he did.
Just proves it. I never watched the highlights.
The stat was I'll keep us right. Thomas, same question to you. Your goal of the season.
Still trying to remember if he missed a penalty. I don't think he did. Goal of the season, Callum McGregor. But Ibrox, January, Callum McGregor. Do you know, for all the reasons that we could have here of technique, Ryan Jack volley, well, you know, good team goal, Ryan Jack against, I think, St Johnstone. I might be wrong with St Johnstone there, but I'm going to actually go for, because it clamped, to use an old phrase, a couple of voices. I'm going to go for Alfredo Morelos' 55th Rangers goal.
Oh, nice.
I can't remember who it was against, but I remember it being an absolute cracker.
Is that the one at the back post?
I think, I can't remember who was marking, but he snuck in, and quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure it was the greatest connection, because if he'd been a wee bit further out, he's putting over that bar, to be really honest, right? And I think everybody walked past that. We all looked at it and went, Christ, on a bike, right? It's went in. That's fine.
Never in doubt.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for that, you know, to get just for the sheer fun of being able to say 55th goal.
Absolutely.
against you know, what used to be Scotland's champions.
Yeah.
Was a nice moment. I'm not saying it's the greatest technique in the world.
It counts. They all count.
The same. Scott?
So I'll give you some of the other goals that I could have picked from. So I spoke about the Barisic free kick against St Johnstone. Similarly, you had James Tavernier's free kick at Tannadice.
Yeah.
Ryan Kent scored a few crackers against Aberdeen, none more so than the first game of the season when he's sort of went the length of the pitch and scored. Great team move as well. Not a million miles away for the goal that Tav scored against Galatasaray, I have to say. Joe Aribo scored 2 great goals, one against Ross County when he's curled it in at the Broom Loan, and he scored an absolutely wonderful effort against Dundee United, where he put one flush into the top corner. However, my goal of the season goes back to, again, the other side of Christmas, October 2020. And it was when Livingston came to town, and Jermaine Defoe scored a goal that I would suggest we will never see the like of at Ibrox ever again. James Tavernier plays a wonderful assist from his own, it's not quite from his own half, he's just inside the Livingston half, and Defoe makes a really clever move. Tavernier puts it literally on his toe. Defoe doesn't really do anything other than, to you and I, we would go to trap it, I think, to be perfectly honest. And he just dinks it by. And I think, Tommy, we spoke about this indeed off camera. And the one thing that I think was quite obvious that day was the aghast of the people that were there at the ground. They couldn't believe that they had seen such a wonderful, wonderful goal. Technique that, as I say, we'll never see anything like that in Scottish football again, Tommy. What a goal it was.
Listen, you're absolutely spot on, and you're right to reference that as well. You hear it, everybody going, oh, and then the clapping starts because as he doesn't break stride, and the keeper's expecting him to trap it. He thinks he's going to get a half a yard to try and do something. The defender's thinking, I'll try and make up the ground, and and a lot goes on the ball, right? It's perfect, but it's also a perfect run. It's a perfect pace that he's got, and he doesn't even break stride. Just looks over once, keeps watching it, and then boom, his legs are working. It sounds a stupid phrase, right? Bear with me. But you know that way sometimes when people are playing football, if we're not at elite level, right, which, sorry guys, none of us are, right, which you Adam and Eve it, but sometimes your legs won't really work independently unless you're looking at the ball. You know what I mean? It's that type of way. Whereas his legs are working completely independently in that he knows his stride's perfect. He's opening up the foot. He knows exactly what he's going to do with the ball and how he's going to cushion it into that bottom corner. He just rolls it, right? It's not travelling fast anymore. And so he can afford to just keep doing that and looking, because all this down here will take care of itself because it's trained to do that and it's top tier. So all he's concentrating on is know exactly where it's going, get the trajectory right. I'll let the technique take over, boom, and in the back of the net. And to your point, when you're talking about finishing technique like that, that is the skill set, and that's why he's so different to, God love Alfredo Morelos and all that, but that's why he's so different to any other striker in Scotland.
So, Robbie, you're doing a lot of coaching just now, right? So I want to come to you on one thing. That is something that I think there's a fair argument that you just can't coach a player to do that. I think if we were to maybe try that half a dozen other times with maybe seasoned pros, they would snatch at that as it comes over. They absolutely would. They would need a couple of touches. They would maybe score in the end. They juggle the ball and then maybe score, or someone would snatch at it. Defoe just seemed to know what he was going to do the minute it left half's boot. He knew exactly what he was doing, and Tommy's absolutely right. His mind was doing the hard work almost. His legs weren't. I wonder what you think, Robbie, if that's something that, how do you try and coach that into a young mind, a young player? How do you do that?
If I knew, I'd be a very rich man. And I certainly wouldn't be doing my day job if I knew see that it was very therapeutic. It's one of the goals you could just watch and just smile, like, that was so nice.
Definitely.
And I totally agree that, see, when I think of like goal of season criteria, I think like individuality. So either for me, individuality, team goal, or in this case, very unique in the sense that very few players could score that goal. So, see, when you talk about goal of season, and somebody will mention like, so definitely up there, but like Ryan Jack's unbelievable goal. But I think a lot of players could score that goal because 99 other times it's flying over the bar. I don't want to pick on Ryan Jack as such, but Ryan Jack has never scored the goal Defoe scored. Yeah. And as I say, that's no offence to Ryan Jack, because as Tommy rightly says, Morelos has probably never scored that goal with that technique and that just sort of seamless transaction between his foot and the ball in the back of the net. It just made it look so easy, and anybody that's played football, whether it's game of fives, amateur, junior, professional, knows that is no mean feat, being able to score that goal the way he scored it. Absolutely. So I think it's a great shout, and it certainly ticks the box for me in terms of individuality, because I can't think of, off the top of my head, any other goal I've seen that was kind of like it. And in the sense that he's probably the only player in the league who scores that goal. And am I right in saying he took it with his left foot?
Yep.
So it's his back foot as well. I mean, that's just outrageous.
So he's got the audacity to let it go across him.
Was a 40-50 yard diagonal ball. I'm on the run, and he actually slows down his run just a little bit as he hits the 80-yard box. And as you say, his mind's doing the computing part. Comes over and then just lets it drop, and then it doesn't bounce. That's the thing as well. It doesn't bounce and then he hits it with his left. it all happens. Lovely turn of phrase from you. Seamless transaction. I really like that. It's a seamless transaction, in that, well, you know me, I'll call a spade when I say something I like.
I love a good play on words, Thomas.
Exactly. It's such an unusual occurrence that I feel I have to draw attention to it. But it's absolutely right. It doesn't bounce or anything like that. He hits it first time. So everybody's wrong-footed. And that's when we're talking about the defender, because he thinks he might just get a wee chance. Right? The keeper thinks, I'll set myself, and then I'll see if he's going to go left or right, and I've got a chance to close the gap. And that accounts for that gasp that everybody's got as well, because they're all thinking he's going to take a touch or it's going to bounce and then he's going to try and drill it by the keeper or whatever. But it all happens far too fast for everybody to get a grasp of it, and it's in the back of the net. And that's why everybody goes, oh. And it's what Robbie's talking about as well, that you can just watch it and you just go, it's those goals. To Robbie's point, which is really well made, the individuality and the technique. And somebody you just know is that's why they're a elite athlete. That's why they get paid, and that's why they're better than us guys down the park. When you see something like that, you know, this isn't not picking on them, but well, I won't pick on anybody, right? It's not somebody sclaffing it into the back of the net or getting lucky with a header that bounces off them or something like that. That's why they do it, and we don't all do it, because he takes everybody out of the equation. It's just him and the ball in the back of the net.
So we should say, for all our sort of viewers, listeners, if you indeed have a moment of the season or a goal of the season that you have at this stage, feel free to tweet us at This Is Ibrox. You can hashtag it with TIIMOTM for your moment of the season, or TII goal of the season. So get your entries into us and see if the guys or indeed myself are close to what you guys are thinking. Last one is a big one. It's Player of the Year. And a difficult one.
Scott, my apologies. Sorry to interrupt there. Right, I feel that because we will get comments if nobody mentions Roof's goal again. Roof's goal.
Just to be clear, Kamal Roof's goal is 100% goal.
I just felt that somebody should actually say it.
It was a decent effort.
I wanted to jump in and say, just so you know, Roof's was goal this season. There's no doubt, but
it was a good effort.
Somebody would have stuck it in the comments. I listened to the podcast, you morons. Why did nobody mention Roof's goal? We are very well aware of it, to be honest with you.
That was a good effort. I'll give you that. That was a good effort.
I think he was trying to play it in the corner. He's trying to waste time. Miss hit.
Scuffed it.
Aye, he's missed it.
Player of the season, Thomas.
What? I refuse to change my mind about anything, which is why I have this haircut and this accent. So I will, or this manner of speaking, I should say. I am going to go stick with Connor Goldson.
Why?
I am. There's a litany of reasons, but I will stick to some of the core ones, which are I'm never a big fan of people saying a goalkeeper sets the defence, because I'm not entirely sure that's right, and I don't think keepers should ever be captains and all that type of stuff, right? For those older people, that began with Tony Meola in the USA World Cup, right? No goalkeeper should ever be a captain, right? Anyway,
Tony Meola.
Tony Meola. That's one from the end.
Robbie, do you remember Tony Meola?
Yeah, I remember Tony.
Oh my God!
Absolutely not.
Tony Meola was. I'm certain he was just some guy they dragged off the street, the goalkeeper. And who was the boy, the defender who had the
Alexei Leilas.
Alexei Leilas. He was the American Valderrama, essentially, for haircuts. We're wildly off topic at this point in time, but that was actually it was a really good World Cup. I enjoyed that.
It was a good.
Did they not play Brazil? Was it Dunga get sent off for an elbow to the face?
It was a real elbow to the face, though. I mean, it made the guys cooping off against a guy called Tab Ramos. Who thinks up these names, for goodness sake?
That's brilliant. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thomas, player of the season.
Oh, damn. Right, okay. Doing my best there. I was trying to go off camera as well, so I realised there was a wall there. Christ. Anyway, so, yeah, sticking with Connor Goldson, I think, given the way that teams set up and the way that we've handled our defensive shape this season, and the change in personnel next to him sometimes, a lot's been placed on Connor Goldson in terms of the importance of being that fundamental rock within the defensive shape. Now, that's not just all he does, right? But I think one of the benefits of not having fans in the stadium is we've heard players talking. Connor Goldson is, one, an ever-present. Two, he is the consistency of the back four model, right? James Tavernier and Bonner Barisic have done fantastically well, as has Alan McGregor, taking the goalkeeper off the equation, right?
Yep.
Taz been out injured and all that kind of stuff. Connor Goldson is the leader on the park, per Gerard's own comments. Then you've got the fact he's been able to work with a number of different permutations sitting next to him, and that includes on the right-hand side when Nathan Paterson came in, and it's been relatively seamless, and that should go down to, in large part, Connor Goldson as well. And then his ability to actually come out of defence and spray balls about. We just referenced, Tav playing a great ball. Connor Goldson's done that several times this season as well, which is an upgrade on his passing ability. So he's taken on the mantle of stepping in to the midfield and helping to break the lines, which is really important for our style of play. And then you put on top of all that leadership stuff, all that football stuff, all that kind of good stuff, the fact that he's done things like pop up at Parkhead and score 2 goals in an Old Firm game. When you start to look at that and then you take a step back and you see that we have set defensive clean sheet records, I don't see how you can, and this is not going to go anybody else on that list, by the way, they're all top-notch players and they all have a place in an argument, right? Legitimate. But I don't see how you can see by Connor Goldson.
So I don't think there's any doubt that Goldson's had a really, really, really good season. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the summer with contracty type discussions, etc. So a big summer, I think, ahead for Connor Goldson, frankly. Robbie, same question to you. Your player of the season.
Well, I'm extremely disappointed to concede that I agree with Thomas.
That's my moment of the season right there.
I was hoping you'd ask me first so I could accuse my problem.
I would have said somebody like Andy Fuck or something like that.
Nah, listen, for me, I would be happy with Andy getting it, but for me, Connor Goldson. The fact that we have conceded, is it 7 league goals?
I believe it's 7 league goals. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. So
is it as much as 7?
Dundee United scored at Ibrox.
Yep.
Motherwell scored at Ibrox.
Yep.
Hamilton away.
Hibs 2 away.
Hibs 2 away.
Aye.
I'm pretty sure it's 7. I've got that in my head anyway. But it's single figures.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah.
We have conceded 7 goals this season. The fact that we conceded 3 goals at home and he's played every single minute in this league campaign, it's a feat that will only probably be appreciated in many years to come. People still talk about that Milan side under Capello. They conceded 18.
I know. Shambles.
There are shambles in the back compared to what we got.
I should say, sorry to interrupt there, but any opportunity to just say how good Maldini and Baresi, and particularly Baresi, by the way. Jesus.
Before my time, but I bet they were.
Ridiculous. Franco Baresi. Ridiculous.
Nothing on goals in the Highlander, but I think they're good.
Well, of course. Baresi could have got a place on the bench, obviously.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robbie, I cut you off.
I like the back and forth, but for me, I just think that for him, he's been. I think that, as I said, I'd be happy with being MD, but I think it's been overlooked that we have been so successful this season because of how we've been able to play as a defensive unit. Like no other team. We talk about, we were surprised to see a team go unbeaten again so soon. Will it happen again in the next 20, 30, 40 years? Who knows? Yeah. I'll be surprised if I see a team in my lifetime concede that little goals in a league campaign. It's just incredible. And the fact that he's done it and played every single minute, again, is almost unheard of. And I actually think that with Rangers, it's maybe a wee bit different because we defend less, but I'm going to make a potentially controversial statement. I think in modern day football, in big teams, centre half is the hardest position in the pitch. The likes of Liverpool. So we play the same sort of style as like a Liverpool, if you like.
Yeah. Are you talking about like in terms of being caught out on the transition and stuff like that. Counter attack, right? Transition.
Like our centre half, Goldson probably more than anything else, takes up so much responsibility and so much pressure for how he plays. We literally don't even like. It's difficult to defend the halfway line. See if you watch us live, we're defending 40 yards for their goal. We're actually beyond the halfway line. So guys like Kent, Hadji, Morelos, Aribo will probably testify for that and say we couldn't do half the stuff we do if it wasn't for that guy being so brave and having so much belief in his own ability and his pace and reading the game, because that enables us to do what we do. So I think that, and then I think it's very unfortunate that as a defender sometimes then they'll concede one goal, they'll maybe be at fault for, and it's if they get rid of him, he did a new defender, he made a mistake for a goal.
Well, weirdly enough, right, just taking that as a practical example, because I actually think you're right. I might not say it's the hardest, right, but I totally get where you're coming from. But you take a practical example apart here. Let's take the Hamilton game, one each away, where they scored in the last minute. Right? We've spoken about this before. So as you're saying, Rangers play fairly similar to Liverpool, right? I don't think Liverpool's fullbacks go quite as far as ours, right? But you've got Barisic and you've got Tav / Paterson, right? Whatever, playing further up, which means that Connor Goldson and any other centre-back are relatively exposed, right? And we don't have the quickest, so they have to calculate that in their thinking, right? Balogun aside, right? But whatever. So genuinely, he has to then expect or ask somebody to drop in. And when they don't do the job, a la Stephen Davis, because it's Stephen Davis that doesn't track his runner against Hamilton, which allows the guy to get down the corner, right, before the ball gets whipped in. We end up getting caught out. So if you think about the amount of times that has not happened this season, when Tav, etc., are so far up the pitch, we remember the small instances where it has, not all the massive myriad of times whereby somebody shuffled across and done it. And quite often it's Goldson that shuffles across, left and right. You've seen it tons of times. And he's always the one who drops behind the corridor as well. So I'm with you in the fact that not only do we play quite high up, but his ability to then re-entrench and make sure that we don't get completely exposed when we're counter-attacked against has made us a totally different proposition to where we were even a year and a half ago. So I do buy exactly where you're coming from. I get it.
It makes difficult situations look easy for me, and I almost think I wish you could see situations where maybe our fullback's been really high, they've cleared it, and he's nipped in front of the striker. I would love if you could make him no do that and then play forward to show you how important him being 3 yards higher is. Because how easy would it be for him to be like, fuck, see after that Hamilton game, see next week, Cav, just stick close to me. Like I don't want to be exposing it. It'd be so easy. But because he does that, because he knows every time that happens, it's his name in the defence. They get the blaming, Tav as well, fullbacks are too high. Surely people realise it's risk reward. Surely people realise that us doing that amounts for far more goals and far more domination than not doing it. So I'm kind of going back to a style of playing stuff, but that doesn't happen. None of what we do is successful if he doesn't do what he does so well. So for that reason, I think for me, on top as well, what Tommy says, scored big goals as well. Scored 2 in the first Old Firm, which for me was probably the most important in terms of the entire season. It's got to be Connor Goldson.
Shall I?
Yes, you shall.
My player of the season. I think the argument for Connor Goldson is absolutely right. I agree with you guys. He's had a fantastic season and has been absolutely pivotal to everything we've done, as has McGregor, Tav.
For those people who are listening and not watching, I'm looking over the horizon for the butt that's coming.
There's something behind me.
Where is it? Aye. I sense it's a different player that's sneaking up behind you. That's what I sense.
My player of the season is quite an easy one. It's Stephen Davis. I think you're talking about a guy who has been really important for us this season, and I'll say that for a couple of reasons. I think the failure of Ryan Jack to maintain any sort of consistency in match fitness has meant that Steven Gerrard hand has been forced with Stephen Davis playing, I would suggest, more games than what Gerrard maybe fancied him playing. Weekend Europe. That's before you account for international trips when he's going away, playing twice. He's breaking records for his country as the captain of his country, and then he's breaking them again, taking the Pat Jennings record for Northern Ireland and then smashing that, and then taking the Peter Shilton record, and then coming back to us and playing in league duty and then playing European duty the Thursday after. Stephen Davis has had a remarkable season for Rangers this season, and I don't particularly want to be drawn into the debate about whether we think he's better this time around or last time around. But my own personal take is that Stephen Davis has 100% been Rangers' most important and best player this season, Tommy.
Again, listen, these are all great debates, and I think I've said before, and I'll say it happily until the cows come home and all that kind of good stuff, until the trophy comes home. Not long now. But it's great to have this type of conversation. I remember a time really recently where the conversation about the squad at the end of the season was, who would you keep?
Yeah.
How can we get rid of these players? And the players inside the shirt were so devalued that Player of the Year awards were a meaningless token.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Now you're having a conversation, a healthy, good conversation across the entire support of going, how do you even get this into a shortlist? Never mind pick a winner, right? Obviously the winner's Connor Wilson, but how do you pick a winner? And the meat of that is they've all got legitimate stories to tell and arguments. You know, you've got a Alan McGregor, you've got a Stephen Davis, you've got a Ryan Kent, you've got a James Tavernier, you've got a Connor Golds. I mean, the list goes on, right? And I don't think it can be overstated, particularly to your point, the ability for Stephen Davis to keep his fitness and continually produce dominating performances, because he's been a linchpin of that range. And I think the Ryan Jack point's extremely well made, because Ryan Jack has completely fallen at the picture due to his injury issues, right? And it's been a big thing for us, and it's caused some problems. And other players like Ben Kamara, etc., have stepped up, and Bongani Zungu didn't work out. Obviously, I'm not having a go at the guy. That'll come later. But and so a lot is rested on Stephen Davis to unlock doors and be that formative playmaker, right? And he's done it consistently. Not just the fitness, the lack of injuries at that age, which is probably a kind of double-edged sword. One, he's not picked up injuries, sounds great. Two, will be bloody lucky, because trying to come back from injuries at that age becomes obviously massively difficult. Do I think he's played of the season? Well, obviously you don't, because I've said it's Connor Goldson, but I don't think it can be overstated how important he has been. Probably the one thing that I don't like about the conversation, actually, about Stephen Davis, and this is not having a go at you or anybody else,
no,
that people, much like Alan McGregor, and I've done it myself, right, critical myself, we immediately lead with, for his age, it's like somebody saying, "No, you're quite good looking for your age," right? Type of scenario. He's either performing well or he isn't. And when he first came under Gerrard, he wasn't performing well.
Yeah.
And then he's been able to get back on side and actually hold down a place. That's actually more interesting to me than anything else, because it tells you a lot about that guy's mentality. He's at the back end of his career, which has been relatively successful. Right, well, really successful actually. He's played the Premiership for a long time and all that kind of good stuff. And he had the wherewithal to come up here and take a lot of criticism. His career was over, his legs were gone, his mind wasn't as sharp, he could never really mix it again with the young guys. And what about some of these people like Lewis Ferguson and Scott Brown? They just got all in next to him, and they'd hassle him to death because he's a player. Gets his pre-season under his belt, works really, really hard, dominating at home, dominating abroad, dominating his national shirt, about to pick up a league title. That tells you pretty much all you need to know about the professional that is Stephen Davis.
Robbie, Stephen Davis' season?
Superb. Yeah, really, really good. You talk about the importance of him. Probably two perfect examples of that. Didn't start the St Mirren game where we get beat, and didn't start the Hamilton game where we drew. And we were actually a goal down, and Gerrard had to bring him on. Had to bring him and Ryan Jack on. And he probably left that game man of the match, and he only played 25-30 minutes.
Yeah.
I think...
And almost rescued us against St Mirren in the Cup as well.
Aye, good shout. Yeah. He came on that night as well. So totally. It just shows that how much Gerrard values him, and who better to rate a centre midfielder than Steve Gerrard. As we said, I could make a case for Andy, and he's certainly one who's right up there. And I think another point as well, how he's performed in the big games. Up the old games, he's been superb. Obviously scored in the Scottish Cup tie, got man of the match, I think, that game. And then the last one as well. I think you get man of the match the last one as well. You probably could, Frank can't get man of the match, but you could argue that he was top 3 best players that game as well. So I've said who I think it is, but I certainly agree that there's many a good argument to say Stephen Davis could be player of the year.
Disappointed nobody is nominated erstwhile playmaker Terry Monroe. He's long-term injured, to be honest with you.
God rest his soul.
I think he's long-term injured, never to be seen again. George Weah's cousin.
So Twitterland, listen, we're keen for you to get involved. By all means, tweet us your moment of the season, goal of the season and player of the season. We're keen to know what you think. Hashtag TIIMOTM for your moment of the season. Hashtag TIIGOTS for your goal of the season. We know about the roof one. And TIIPOTY for your player of the season. By all means, fire them into our social media accounts and we will gladly receive whatever you decide to send us, which should be quite interesting. Robbie, thanks for joining us this week. By the time we speak next week, we'll have seen Alfredo Morelos holding the league championship trophy. How good does that sound?
Superb, and the rest. Very much look forward to it. It's been a long time coming, actually. Never mind the years previous no win it. It's been a long time coming since we've actually sealed it till we get to see the day. So I think I'll enjoy a few cold ones watching that.
Indeed. Tommy, it'll be good to see guys like James Tavernier, Morelos as we speak about, but I'll personally look forward to seeing Steven Gerrard with his hands on that trophy on Saturday afternoon.
Lots of satisfying images to come. I'm with Robbie. I'll have a couple of cold drinks that come with a percentage on the label. But and to everybody listening, everybody watching, everybody supporting, we've been through a really, really tough journey. And it's always difficult when you are the top dog and you find that you are not for a while. But great clubs and great institutions and great supports are built on adversity and coming back from that. That's where the stories lie. Rangers 55.
This week we'll get together as well to discuss the women. We do the women's podcast again this coming Thursday. Myself, Graham Courtney, will be joined by Kirsten Riley. So we look forward to being joined by her this coming Thursday night, which will go out at some point on Friday. Looking forward to that very much indeed. All our content is, of course, free of charge. It's across at www.thisisibrox.co.uk. I urge you to jump on, have a look. You'll be able to see us on YouTube. You'll be able to hear us on Spotify, Acast, Podbean, all the usual ones. You'll catch us there. Rangers play Livingston on Wednesday, and of course we lift that trophy at last on Saturday afternoon. We're really excited about it. We can't wait, and we will do it all again. We'll speak to you next weekend or next week at some point, and we look forward to it. Good luck to Rangers on Wednesday and next weekend. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
This is Ibrox, your Rangers podcast, brought to you by Triple H Mortgages, the one-stop shop for all your mortgage and mortgage insurance needs. Contact them on 01453 887179 or via email hello@hhhmortgages.com.
Fire's raging, I'm shaking. You wanna go out? I wanna stay in. Why?